Have you ever really stopped to think about how your body keeps its temperature at a perfect 37 degrees Celsius, no matter if you're stuck in a snowstorm or running in a heat wave, or how it just knows how much sugar to keep in your blood, even after you've demolished a huge piece of cake? Well, the answer is this incredible, nonstop process called homeostasis. It's the body's ultimate balancing act. And today, we're going to peek behind the curtain and see how it all works. So here's the plan. We'll start with the why this balance is so important. Then we'll get into the how, which is a really clever system called the negative feedback loop. We'll look at it in action with blood sugar and body temperature. Then we'll check out a weird little exception called positive feedback. And finally, we'll tie it all together to see why it matters for our health. All right, so first things first, let's tackle that big question. Why is our body working so hard 24/7 just to keep everything on an even keel? I mean, what's the big deal about balance? You know that shivering you do when you're freezing? That's not some random twitch. Nope, that is a perfect example of homeostasis in action. It's a very specific, high-speed response designed to generate heat and get your core temperature right back to its happy place. These aren't just random feelings. They are direct, targeted commands from your body's mission control. Okay, so here's the textbook definition, but don't let the word constant fool you into thinking it's static or boring. A better way to think about it is like this. Your body is a finely tuned orchestra, and homeostasis is the conductor. It's making tiny adjustments to everything all the time. Your temperature, your water levels, your blood pressure, making sure every single instrument is playing in perfect harmony. It's a state of what we call dynamic equilibrium. And this stability, it's not just a nice to have. It's literally the difference between life and death. You see, our enzymes, those are the proteins that make pretty much every chemical reaction in our body happen, are incredibly fussy. Their 3D shape, which is crucial for them to work, is held together by some really fragile bonds. If the temperature or pH shifts even a tiny bit, those bonds break, the enzyme changes shape, and it just stops working. It's like trying to start a car with a melted key. The whole system just grinds to a halt. So if homeostasis is our destination, this stable internal world, how does the body actually get there? How does it know when something's off and it's time to act? Well, the answer lies in this brilliant and super important system called a negative feedback loop. The thermostat analogy is just perfect because it has all the key pieces. The thermometer is the receptor. It detects the temperature. The thermostat itself is the coordinator. It knows what the temperature should be. If it's too cold, it sends a signal to the furnace, which is the effector. And the furnace's response? To kick on and generate heat, which cancels out the initial cold. Once it's warm enough, the system shuts off. Your body is doing this exact same thing, but for hundreds of different variables all at once. Let's break down the cast of characters you'll find in every single one of these loops. It always starts with a stimulus. That's just anything that pushes a variable away from where it's supposed to be. Then, a specialized receptor, think of it like a biological sensor, detects that change. It shoots a message to a coordinator, which is like mission control, often in the brain. The coordinator figures out what to do and sends instructions to an effector, usually a muscle or a gland, which then carries out the corrective response. And that right there is the absolute core of negative feedback. It's all about opposition. The response directly works against or negates the initial problem. If you get too hot, the response works to cool you down. If your blood sugar drops, the response works to bring it up. It is a constant, self-correcting push and pull, all to get back to that perfect, balanced state. All right, theory's great, but let's see this blueprint in action. And we're going to start with one of the most elegant and crucial examples in the human body, managing our blood glucose levels. You know, your blood sugar is on a bit of a roller coaster all day. After you eat, especially something with carbs, it shoots up. After you exercise or maybe skip a meal, it plummets. And here's the thing, both of those extremes are really dangerous. High blood sugar, or hyperglycemia, can damage your blood vessels over time. Low blood sugar, hypoglycemia, can starve your brain of fuel. So your body needs an incredibly sharp and responsive system to handle these swings. Okay, so let's follow the loop. You've just eaten something sugary. The stimulus? A rise in blood glucose. Now, inside your pancreas, you've got these little clusters of cells, and the beta cells in there are the receptors that detect this spike. The pancreas is cool because it's both the coordinator and the effector. It decides what to do, and then it does it by releasing the hormone insulin into your blood. Insulin is basically a key. It unlocks your body's cells, especially in your liver and muscles, and tells them to start soaking up that glucose. It also tells the liver to convert any extra glucose into a storage molecule called glycogen. The result? Glucose leaves the blood, and your levels come right back down to normal. But what about the flip side? It's been a few hours since you ate, and you're starting to get hungry. The stimulus now is a drop in blood glucose. This time, a different set of receptors in the pancreas, the alpha cells, sound the alarm. Their response is to release a completely different hormone, glucagon. Glucagon travels to the liver and gives it the opposite message: time to release the reserves. It triggers the liver to break down that stored glycogen back into glucose and release it into the bloodstream. And just like that, your blood sugar level rises back to where it should be. It's this beautiful dance between two opposing hormones working together to keep you stable. Okay, let's switch gears from sugar to shivers. We're going to look at another balancing act you've definitely felt before: the constant struggle to keep your core body temperature locked in at around 37 degrees Celsius. This whole process is called thermoregulation. Whether you're sweating through a workout or freezing at a bus stop, your body is always fighting to defend that core temperature. If you get too hot, that's hyperthermia. It has to find ways to dump heat fast. If you get too cold, hypothermia, it needs to trap every bit of warmth it can, and even start making more. So, let's say you're overheating. The stimulus is a rise in your body temp. Receptors in your skin, and most importantly, in a part of your brain called the hypothalamus, pick up on this. The hypothalamus is the coordinator, and it immediately launches a two-pronged attack to cool you down. First, it tells your sweat glands to get to work. As that sweat evaporates off your skin, it pulls a ton of heat away with it. Second, it causes something called vasodilation. Think of it like opening up all the highways to your skin. The blood vessels near the surface get wider, which lets a lot more warm blood flow near the surface where it can radiate its heat out into the air. Now, what if you're cold? The hypothalamus triggers a whole different set of responses. It tells your skeletal muscles to start contracting and relaxing really fast, over and over, and that's what shivering is. All that muscle work generates a lot of heat. At the same time, it does the opposite of before: vasoconstriction. Those blood vessels near the skin get narrower, restricting blood flow and keeping your warm blood closer to your vital organs in your core. And finally, tiny little muscles attached to your body hairs contract, making them stand on end. You know this as goosebumps. It's kind of an evolutionary leftover from when we were hairier, and it was meant to trap a layer of insulating air against the skin. Okay, so right about now, you're probably thinking that all these feedback loops are about putting on the brakes and reversing change. But in biology, there's always an exception to the rule, right? In this case, it's called positive feedback. And yeah, as the name suggests, it does the exact opposite of its negative cousin. So instead of hitting the brakes, positive feedback slams on the accelerator. It takes an initial change and makes it bigger and bigger and bigger, creating a cascade effect that pushes a process forward until it's complete. Because it's designed to drive the body away from its normal state, it's way less common. I mean, think about it. If you let it go unchecked, it could cause a dangerous runaway reaction. That's why positive feedback is only used for very specific, rapid events that have a clear finish line. The classic example everyone uses is childbirth. When labor starts, the baby's head pushes on the cervix, which stimulates stretch receptors. That sends a signal to the brain, which responds by releasing the hormone oxytocin. Oxytocin makes the uterine contractions stronger, which, you guessed it, pushes the baby's head even harder on the cervix. This stimulates the release of even more oxytocin. It's this powerful, self-amplifying loop that gets stronger and stronger, driving the process forward until the baby is delivered, which finally removes the stimulus and shuts the whole cycle down. Wow, okay, we've covered a ton of ground, from hormones to heat physics, so let's just take a step back and really appreciate the big picture. Why is this constant, invisible balancing act so unbelievably important for our health and, well, for our survival? So, what are the big takeaways here? First, remember that homeostasis isn't a fixed state. It's a dynamic, ongoing process of adjustment. Second, its main tool is that ingenious negative feedback loop, which acts like a biological thermostat. Third, this whole balancing act isn't just helpful, it's absolutely fundamental for life itself, from our enzymes to our cells. And finally, when this delicate balance breaks down, that's when things can go seriously wrong. Just think about it. So many diseases are, at their very core, a failure of homeostasis. Type 1 diabetes is what happens when that blood sugar feedback loop breaks. Life-threatening hypothermia is what happens when the body's temperature control systems get completely overwhelmed. In a way, a huge part of modern medicine is really just about helping the body get its own homeostatic balance back, whether that's through an insulin shot, an IV drip for dehydration, or medicine to control blood pressure. And that really is the most amazing part of it all. This whole intricate dance of receptors and coordinators and effectors is happening every single second of every day. And we don't even have to think about it. It just works. It really makes you marvel at the complexity inside us and just kind of wonder what other incredible invisible systems are humming away right now, all working together to create this miraculous thing we call life.